Hello, hello. Welcome to Conversations with the Future, where we interview ambitious teens with big dreams and inspire you to start working towards your dream career while you're in high school. My name is Okey and I will be your host for this show. Stay tuned because you are not going to want to miss this. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the 10th episode of Conversations with the Future. I hope you're all doing well and that you're feeling good about the first quarter of 2024. As you all know, my name is Okey and I am a grade 11 student. And today I'm going to be interviewing Brian, a 12th grade student at Ridley College who has an interest in psychology and exploring the complexities and the mysteries of the brain. He was recently accepted into Princeton University and is known for his eloquent writing, his intelligence, and his kind spirit. Brian has many accomplishments that we are going to be diving deeper in today, such as placing second in the JFK Profile and Courage essay contest, placing second in the Brain Bee competition at McMaster University, and co-founding the Neuro-Psy-ience Club at Ridley, and piloting the literary magazine for his IB Creativity, Action, and Service project. As you can see, Brian is very accomplished, but he is a very reflective and insightful person as well. And so I've invited him onto the podcast today so he can give us some tips as high school students and advice by talking about his own experience in the field of psychology, his study of the human brain, and how he's preparing for post secondary education and his dream career. So now I'm going to hand it over to Brian, who's going to introduce himself, and then we'll get the interview going.
Thank you so much for the introduction. Okay, I'm really honored to be here as a guest, and I'm thankful to be here with you today for this interview. I'm Brian. I'm a grade 12 student at Ridley who participates in the IB program, among which I take literature, psychology, math AA, Mandarin B, economics, and biology. And in my spare time, I really enjoy reading because I believe reading is a very important activity for all of us. I also enjoy playing sports. So throughout the year, I've joined the cross country team, the squash team, and also now the tennis team. So yeah, that's a little bit about me.
That's amazing. Thank you so much for coming onto the podcast today and for telling us a little bit about yourself. I really appreciate that. So now I'm going to start by asking you to um, kind of talk about your aspirations for the future and kind of tell us about that. So your university plans, your dream career, what are you hoping to do after all this education is done? And just, yeah, talk to us about that.
Yeah, so you talked a little bit about me getting accepted into Princeton. So the plan right now is for me to go there in the fall for next year. So that's where I'll do my undergraduate degree. And specifically why I chose psychology as the my major for some reasons because psychology, first of all, I find it a very fascinating subject as very insightful, both of that allows us to gain more insight into ourselves and also to others. And also, I believe that psychology is a study that allows many opportunities in the future. We're not necessarily segmented into a particular career, and there's much variety in what you can do with your psychology degree. So right now, I'm not particularly sure in what I want to do as a career in the future, but definitely one that entices me that I might consider pursuing in the future is that of a researcher, particularly um, being able to do research in psychology. Having read a lot of research myself in psychology, I find it fascinating that these researchers around the globe they can do all of this research to allow us to understand more about human behavior and human nature. And I hope that one day maybe I can also contribute to this research. Yeah.
That's incredible. Actually, off script a little bit, I have a question for you. Did you write about psychology for your extended essay in the IB program?
Actually, for I did not write about psychology. I wrote about literature because I'm
Oh,
also really interested in reading books. So that's what I decided to do.
I see. That's very interesting. Yeah, research is a very fascinating field, and it's really important because I personally feel like I mean, psychology is a very important discipline that has a lot of applications in the real world. However, there needs to be people who do the research, and then there also needs to be people who actually execute this research and use it for maybe clinical purposes, maybe for types of maybe psychotherapy, things like that. But you need the research to be done first in order to know what types of principles can be implemented in order to effectively achieve the right results. So I feel like that's a very, very important career that not a lot of people talk about, but it is certainly right up your alley, in my opinion. So, yeah. Um, so yes, my next question that I want to ask you is basically, did you have, apart from like your literature essay that you wrote, you said that you have a lot of experience with research. So I was wondering, did you have any like other previous experiences with research that inspired you to potentially pursue a career as a scholar and a researcher?
Of course. One of the things that really inspired me to become perhaps a pursue a career as a scholar and researcher, especially in psychology, is because, as you said, there are a lot of applications for this research. I believe that it has increasing importance in our current age, where, for example, we see the rise of artificial intelligence. So now that we've really expanded and been able to increase, for example, our productivity, now we have more time, for example, to really understand our own human natures better. And it's really fascinating because the the brain is what dictates our everyday actions, but a lot of it still remains unexplored. So this is definitely something that I believe will be really important in the future. And as to any previous experiences with research, of course, I had my extended essay, but over the last summer, I also participated in the CCIR research program where I was able to do neuroeconomics research with a professor from Dartmouth. And
Wow.
specifically, what I researched was because neuroeconomics is basically a discipline, interdisciplinary subject that combines the concepts from neuroscience and economics, particularly in the field of behavioral economics, to understand, for example, how consumers make decisions. So what I did was understand how the system one and system two of like psychology may influence the ways in which we make choices, our everyday choices. Yeah.
Wow,
So
that's
those are
incredible.
some experiences.
That's amazing. You did research with a professor from Dartmouth. That's incredible. And like, just out of curiosity, how are you able to, if you're comfortable answering, how are you able to kind of like get this experience with a professor at such a well-known and very like prestigious university?
Definitely. One of the I know that some people they may try to, for example, email the professors, but I didn't try that approach. I participated in the CCIR research program,
Right.
which is a pro. It's sort of similar to, I don't know if you know, the Pioneer program. That
Yeah,
sort you have to write an application and it pairs you with a professor. And I found that doing the application was and being paired with a professor, I found that the research fit well for what I wanted to do. So for me, it was a really positive experience.
I see. Okay, so that makes sense because I know there's a lot of people who are looking for doing having these types of like research experiences with professors of this caliber. So I think it's really important that you shared with us today how you were able to gain access to that opportunity. And I'm really hoping that other people will take what you've said in mind and will take note of the program you've mentioned and hopefully try and do these programs as well and engage in very insightful and useful research that will have like broad implications and are of interest to you. So now I'm going to ask you about the first accomplishment that you kind of told me previously that is something you're really proud of and that is important to talk about. So first of all, we're going to be talking about your experience in the John F. Kennedy Profile and Courage contest, in which you placed second. So first of all, I wanted to tell you why you chose to participate in this program in the first place.
Okay, so just with clarification, I actually didn't place second. I was just a semi-finalist.
Oh,
I was
oh,
I wasn't that good, but I was
oh,
a semi-finalist.
That's okay.
um,
Though. It's still amazing.
yeah. Um, why I chose to participate in the John F. Kennedy Profile and Courage essay, particularly, it was because mm, one of my close friends, who's a few years older than me, she participated in the competition a couple years back, and she was able to win the competition, and I felt inspired to also because I really want to improve because I've always loved reading, and of course, this love for reading um, that naturally led to a desire to also write. And I found this as a way to test out my writing skills and see how I stacked up against other writers my age in high school. And particularly the John F. Kennedy Profile and Courage essay, I found it to be a particularly interesting contest because it's based upon a book that JFK wrote called Profiles in Courage, where he details different senators and politicians throughout the years who have displayed active courage in their political careers. So I thought that this was also a good opportunity for me to learn more about U.S. history and also engage with these sort of historical contexts and understand how these people were able to create change in their societies. Yeah.
That's incredible. Thank you so much for talking about that. Yeah, the JFK Profile and Courage essay contest sounds like a very interesting contest to engage with, not just as something to maybe add to your resume, but something for you to engage in your own historical investigation of US history, of senators and politicians who have displayed courage. That sounds like something that is a very meaningful investigation. And so I was going to ask you, like, if you experienced any personal growth in any way through your participation in this competition, and if you've learned any valuable lessons from your study of the life of the elder woman Val Phillips, because I know that that's who you profiled. So, talk about maybe the personal development and the lessons that you learned through your investigation during the process of this contest.
Definitely. So I participated in the contest for 2 years in a row, and why I did it for 2 years in a row. Well, for the first year, I placed in the top 10%. So I
Oh,
decided that I want to try again. I want to see if I could do any better in the second year, and I believe that throughout from my first year writing and my second year writing, definitely one of the personal growth I found was the ability because I never done that much research before I participated in the essay contest. So it definitely honed my research skills and my ability to write a persuasive essay. And I also found that being able to find a person that has a convincing story to profile is also a really important part of what makes your essay good. So why I chose elder woman Vel Phillips was my sort of inspiration for choosing her was because I was actually born in Milwaukee, and
oh,
I
wow.
and she was a older woman in Milwaukee, so I know that Milwaukee used to be like a really it's one of the most segregated cities in the world, in the U.S. So I want to explore if there are any politicians throughout the past years who had done anything to do anything about this problem. And throughout my readings, I discovered Vel Phillips, one of the who was the first woman and African American elder woman to serve in the council. And particularly, I think her story is inspiring because at the time, a lot of the African Americans were confined to the inner core in Milwaukee, where there were a lot of slums, and they were unable to move out because of the housing discrimination that was present at the time. And especially for Vel Phillips, who, especially as she was the first African American woman and first woman to serve in the council, it would be very easy for her to go along with the others and to sort of make herself lay low and not necessarily do any radical actions as a politician. But especially in John F. Kennedy's book, he defines people who have political courage as politicians who have the courage to not be enslaved by like the raging prejudices of the day. And I think that Belle Phillips really exemplifies this sort of political courage as she had this persistence. We see that in the beginning when she brought forth the fair housing bill, it was often rejected 18-1, and with her being the only vote in agreement with the bill. But eventually, her persistence paid off. After the assassination of Martin Luther King Jr., she was able to pass the bill and introduce a more fair introduce fair housing to Milwaukee, introduce a more um, to improve the conditions of those the African Americans who lived in Milwaukee. And but we can also see that political courage definitely has its consequences, as she was unable to be reelected. And I believe that this shows us that social change is often really difficult, as it's easy to be brought down by the societal norms of the day. But it only takes one person to really have the political courage, to step forward and be a pioneer for change. And I think this is a story that's really inspiring for all of us to also be able to take action in whatever we think that needs change.
Wow. That's actually incredible. Thank you so much. Like, even though um I myself did not do the research and I knew nothing about Val Phillips until coming to this podcast today and hearing you talk about it, I feel like I know so much about it, even within the small span of time that you like kind of shared her story and talked about the courage that she showed, even when um there would be consequences for her, even when it did not come without cost. She did what she knew was important for the sake of the African Americans in Milwaukee. And I think it's wonderful that you got the opportunity to research this in depth. And I think that, like, the research that you have done and the essay that you have written, I think that is kind of, it's inspiring other people to also be courageous in their own ways. And it's not research that you just do and then you throw away. It's research that you share with the world so that other people can see the courage that she showed and adopt that into their own lives and hopefully do this things of the same caliber, of the same meaning, and of the same impact. So thank you so much for talking about that. I really, really appreciate it. And it sounds like your participation in this essay contest was very, very, very well spent. Would you say? Would you say so?
Definitely.
Well, well done. Thank you. So, we're going to shift to the next accomplishment. You've talked a lot about your interest in psychology. You've talked a lot about your interest in the human brain. But one of the things that you told me about that I was interested in is how you are starting a literary magazine with your friend Marcus at Ridley here in our school. And you are doing it for your CAS, Creativity, Activity, and Service project for the IB program. So, can you just tell us a little bit about that and why you chose to do this and what your aims are for this? And just tell us a little bit about the backstory and the purpose behind this literary magazine.
Okay, definitely. So the literary magazine, what inspired me to do this was because as IB student, we all need to do a CAS project that we lead, and which is a some sort of community service or similar related project that you really take action with. And I wanted to do something that I really found meaningful for me, that not necessarily just for this. I like throughout my high school career, a lot of things I've done, I don't want to necessarily do something just for the sake of doing something, but I believe that I should find it meaningful and also enjoy doing doing what I'm doing. And so Marcus and I we're both part of the IB literature class, and we like reading different books. And so I decided we were brainstorming what sort of cast project we could do, and we realized that after the pandemic, our Ridley hasn't really had a literary magazine, so we decided that it was a perfect opportunity for us both do our cast project and bring a literary magazine to the community. And besides being able to inspire others to also participate in reading and writing, you also this also is a platform for high writers at our school to display their talents and to establish their confidence in their writing, and also to receive feedback from others. Because I think it's really important that students nowadays appreciate reading and writing not just as an academic study, but as a private and inner study too. As because reading is really a activity that can enrich not just how you learn, but also how you think and view the world. So
Exactly. That's great. That's good for you. Yeah. So tell us so are you going to be like getting different students to write different articles for your magazine, and when are we going to be able to see the magazine? Like what are your plans for that?
yeah, so throughout the past year, we've been accepting submissions from the community, and now we have enough submissions. So now we're just doing the final steps. We actually, for the magazine, we also were able to um, interview school administration, such as the headmaster or
Oh,
assistant headmaster, and so hopefully all this we're going to compile all of it, and hopefully we can have it out by the end of the month.
great. I'm so excited to see that. And do you think it would be okay if we could share this magazine with some of the podcast listeners and viewers as well?
Definitely, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So we'll make sure we do that when it comes out. We're super excited to see it. Now, I just want to also highlight one of your other accomplishments. You told me about your participation in the Brain Bee competition that happens at McMaster University. And basically, what I learned about it is that like these questions kind of come from university level textbooks about neuroscience, and that this one you placed second, right? Not semifinals.
Yeah.
This one is second. Okay, good, good, good. Okay, and basically, what I realized about it is that it kind of promotes student engagement with neuroscience. I know that a lot of people like to participate in competitions like these. I don't. I know a lot of people don't, not because they don't want to win an award, and not because they don't want to engage in something fun, but because it can be a little bit difficult to win it because
Mhm.
there's so many qualified candidates, and it's like how do you go about it? So I just like you to share a couple of strategies that you used to place so well in this competition, how you overcame your nerves and how you took care of your mental headspace so you were able to display all the knowledge that you have and do well in the competition to make all the hard work that you did behind the scenes actually worthwhile, because when you work so hard in the back and then you place 100th out of 100 people, it's like, man, I just wasted my time, right? So how were you able to like kind of maximize your performance in this competition?
Mhm. Yeah, definitely. So Um, one of the main things I did was definitely read the textbooks. The Brain Bee, they provide a list of textbooks that they draw the questions from. So that's definitely the first step. Read through the textbooks, and as I read through the textbooks, what I did particularly was I highlighted main pieces of text that I thought could be testable. So afterwards, after I highlighted all these main pieces of text, I made them into flashcards. So particularly, I like to use the app called Anki, and it's a online flashcard app that allows you to create flashcards. Also has a spaced repetition system, which basically means that depending on how well you know the content of the flashcard, it will assign when to allow you to review again. So then you don't have to review like all. It allows you to space out your repetition, so you can review a little bit at a time every day. So this was the main. That was the only like the main strategy I used for the competition. And in the preparation of it, it was just reading the textbooks and making flashcards. And as to how I was able to really calm myself down and do well in the competition, well then night before I made sure I was prepared. I sort of reviewed all the flashcards I made sure like I was familiar with all the content. But also like I didn't really have that much of it. Like I kind of lowered my expectations. I wasn't necessarily expecting to get second place. So important to I think it's really important to do the best that you can, but also acknowledge that sometimes like a lot of people are really good, and
Yeah.
so I think it's real If you lower your expectations, definitely you still have to try really hard, but not necessarily place the results as the most important factor, or else
Right.
um, because the process is also as important as what you do, as the results that you gain. So I believe that you just have to sort of put into perspective how important the results are compared to what you did to prepare, because preparing for competitions such as these, they're useful. For example, like preparing for this competition, besides being able to get second, I was also able to learn a lot of content in my biology or psychology classes beforehand. So, and I'm sure that the the preparation process will also help me as I go on to university, especially as I was able to not just in the content but the method of preparation. So
Yes. Great. Thank you so much for sharing those strategies and for giving that wonderful piece of advice. Because I kind of realized from what I was saying before was very results oriented. And I kind of feel bad now because I'm like, you're actually right that the process is also very important. So I myself, who's supposed to be the one interviewing and everything, I also am realizing something new from what you're saying, which is that, you know, as much as the results are important, the process is just as important because throughout the process you're learning new things, you're growing, you're learning new strategies on how to compete, such as like you said, making the flashcards and doing like repetitive practice and exploring the different strategies that work best for you. I feel like those are really good strategies that you can apply not only in competition but only when you get to also when you get to university classes, right? And there's a million things that you have to remember from just one lecture, and you have to compile it all and remember it for the exams that are worth so much. So there's so much meaning in the process that it's almost more beneficial to you than the outcome itself.
definitely,
So thank you for like kind of enlightening me and enlightening everybody else about that. It's
I
very
think
much
it's
appreciated. Mhm.
especially important how, like, because the results are just something you get at the end, but really the process is what's, because of the results. For example, if you win or if you lose, like if you do well, if you don't do well, the emotions that you feel are really sort of short-lived and ephemeral. So but like the process is what you do every day and that leads up to it, right? So you really need to sort of enjoy the process and enjoy what you do, or else like the joy you might get from the results aren't really as significant as like being able to find meaning in what you're doing every day. So I think that's really important to keep in mind.
It is really important to keep in mind, and I appreciate you sharing that. Thank you. Now, our time is running out so quickly. So I think what we're going to do is we're going to have you talk a little bit about your club just for a couple of minutes, a club that you started called the Neuroscience Club with our friend Jocelyn. What are the things that you do in this new club of yours? And can you maybe talk about like maybe a special moment within the club, something that you really loved while you were running the club, and what it's all about, the experiences you've had in the club, just for a little bit, so we can learn about what the process is to start a club and to run it on a consistent basis, and just what that was like for you as a bit already busy student.
Okay, so basically in the psychology club, me and Jocelyn and I run it together, and what we do in this club, first of all, one of them, we had two main goals for this club. One of them was to prepare other students for the brain bee that I said I participated in last year,
Yeah.
and also the second goal of our club was to um, create a brain awareness campaign at Ridley for the Brain Awareness Month, which was last month. And the experience of doing this club, a special moment we had was when we were also able to go as a club to McMaster and also participate in the competition together. And I find this um, I find it fascinating that I'm able through the club to also allow others to find the psych, like also find fascination in the subject of psychology. And I'd say that through the running of the club, me and Jocelyn were able to learn a lot about. I think when you run a club, what's important is to have a plan of action and to list out what you want to do and to really order it and just do it one at a time and like a list. And so this really facilitates your ability to be able to create a structure and to achieve what the results that you want. And actually at McMaster we had a lot of fun because besides participating in competition, they also have a lot of interesting demonstrations, such as allowing you to dissect a sheep brain or doing activating different sort of, I believe it's called optogenetics, which allows you to use light to activate different responses in fruit flies, which was really interesting to do. So yeah, those are some moments and learnings from psychology club, the neuroscience club.
That's incredible. Thank you so much for talking about that because I know that a lot of people they are not they're interested in starting clubs, but they know that it can be really daunting. And obviously, it's a lot of work, right? You need to organize how you are going to help other students prepare for the Brain Bee competition. You have to organize these trips to make a master and making sure that every student had the best opportunity possible. Organizing the Brain Awareness Month initiatives. There's a lot of work that goes into planning clubs and I have a lot of respect for you for doing that, along with Jocelyn, who was also very much involved in the process of running the club, of course. Um, and I just wanted to kind of um, thank you for telling us a little bit about those experiences and sharing how it's a lot of hard work, but it can also be a ton of fun as well. When you put the work into it, you reap the fruit, and it's really lovely, as you have talked about with the different experiences you had both in the school and at McMaster. So, we're now coming to the end of the interview, which is so sad because I've so enjoyed
You can ask whatever you want. I might I don't
it.
have really, yeah.
But yes, I wanted to kind of conclude the interview by kind of asking you about your academics and how you've managed to achieve such high grades in school while also balancing it with all of your extracurricular endeavors, your club, your research, your competitions, because you have very stellar grades and you're a very intelligent person, obviously, and you're able to juggle so much and be so successful. And we kind of want to know your secret to being like an academic weapon and also a stellar extracurricular individual as well. So, yeah, if you could just give us some advice about how you balance that in order to end the interview on a good note, I'd really appreciate you doing that.
Okay, definitely. That sounds great. So, for me, the academic performance, I think it really depends on the subject, like what I do to achieve the grades I want. So, and as you said, I think a lot of it's really important to also enjoy the process and
Yes.
not put too, like, of course the results are important to some extent, but not put everything on the results, like. And but like for subjects such as biology and psychology, what I do is similar for what I did in the Brain Bee. I just look through, for example, the notes that our teacher gives us, and for example, the cognitive, like the textbook we use for the class, and I just take notes from what I think is important for this, that will maybe an assessment, and I make them into flashcards. So the flashcards needs I think the flashcards are really useful because what they do is through the spaced repetition that allows you to keep reviewing the subjects, because over time in psychology we know that our memory, it decays. So our memory for information, it has like a certain forgetting curve and it decays. So being able to reprime our memory every time we rehearse it, it allows us to consolidate our memories more. So I might not have to study that much the night before the exam, but it's because I've always every day I've been able to review a little at a time, and so by the time the exam comes around, the information is really consolidated in my brain. And so yeah, that's what I do for biology and psychology. I think the one last subject I'll give advice for, because I really enjoy it, is literature. It takes time to establish this sort of ability to engage, but I think engage with the text. But I believe that reading it definitely helps a lot. So my advice for if you want to get if you want to improve your ability to do analysis in literature is definitely reading in your spare time. So whenever you have time, just try to read a little bit more, like read different types of books that you enjoy. And also, I believe that reading can allow you to live a more fulfilled life and to view the world in a different way. So
That's
yeah, that's what I
incredible.
have to say about
Thank you. Thank you so much, Brian, for your time today. Thank you for all of the advice that you've given. There's so many amazing pieces of advice and bits of information that I could kind of use for like a call to action to everyone today. But I think some of the key things that we can take from all of the wonderful information that Brian has talked about today is exploring your interests in different ways, reading lots of books in order to do well in your literature classes and also to live a more fulfilled life, to kind of enjoy the process and to not necessarily be too fixated on the results, but to also kind of garner lessons throughout your progress and throughout your process to achieving results. And also, of course, really kind of finding the strategies that work best for you in your classes, such as like the memorization tips that Brian has given for biology and psychology. I think these are all things that can help us be better students and obviously help us to do really well in our classes so that we can also spend our time doing things that are of interest to us, just like Brian has done with his interest of psychology and engaging in different research initiatives and competitions that help him to prepare him for his dream career, which is hopefully in the realm of psychology and the inner workings of the brain. So, thank you so much for everything you shared with us, Brian, today. I think it will be really helpful for a lot of people. It certainly was to me. So, thank you for listening to this episode of Conversations with the Future. My name is Okey, and we'll see you in the next episode. Bye.